So you may have exhausted all other share option plans. And therefore, what's left? EMI doesn't work. CSOP, potentially, you've breached limits on that. You've looked at growth and decided actually that may be too complicated. The other option that's available to you is to use a simple unapproved share option plan. So Andrew, what's the tax consequences for companies to use an unapproved share option plan?
The beauty of unapproved option plans is simplicity.
Yeah.
There are no company qualifying conditions. Anyone can grant an unapproved option to anyone. You don't need to be a qualifying employee, you don't need to be a director, you don't need to be employed. You know, we see a lot of situations, unapproved options go to consultants, for example. Non-exec directors, that's a classic unapproved plan. So nothing to think about from the company, apart from the fact that when we were talking back at the start of this series about EMI benefits for the company, when an unapproved option is exercised, the company can benefit from a corporation tax deduction. So that is a good thing, right? Let's focus on positives there. From an individual receiving an unapproved option, again, it's like getting an EMI option, a CSOP option. There'll be an exercise price. It's a gift in your hands. There's no upfront cost, so that's good. Under an unapproved plan, though, any growth in value from grant date to exit will be taxed at income rates. And if you're an employee or director receiving an unapproved option, you should probably expect that at exit, if you're looking to, if the company's being exited, that the shares will be readily convertible assets. And if that's the case, that unapproved gain will get payrolled like a bonus.
Yeah.
So there will be a employee and employer's net cost. Where that employer's net cost depends on scheme design. That can be taken on by the company as a burden, company cost, or can be pushed back to the employee via the option agreement. Both doable and both draftable.
So an unapproved scheme is an alternative to a bonus scheme, but is more about aligning the growth expectations of the individual with the company, as opposed to a bonus, which may be just more akin to performance-based criteria.
Yeah, it goes back to the classic, wanting to align everyone's objectives. You're bringing on a non-exec director, for example, and you want to just make sure that they have some skin in the game and an opportunity to benefit. One really interesting thing with unapproved plans which can help around design is exercise price. We've talked about different option plans. With an EMI option plan, the option to achieve tax benefits, capital gains tax rates, must be granted at actual market value. For a CSOP option to be granted and achieve tax benefits, it must be granted at unrestricted market value. For an unapproved plan, you can grant at whatever price you like. So that can be as low as a nominal. It has to be at the nominal value of the shares, not below nominal value of the shares. But as long as it's granted at nominal value and you pay that nominal value at exercise, then anything goes. Why go lower with an unapproved plan? Well, because the tax treatment isn't incentivized, it's not HMRC approved wrapper, it's not got 20%, 10% CGT rates attached, it's got income tax, employees, NIC, potential employers, NIC attached. Issue them lower to maximize the benefit in the hands of the recipient. That's something we tend to see at least discussed when we come to scheme design conversations with unapproved plans, and is probably one of your points of negotiation when it comes to unapproved, because as we've said, going through this, it's a fairly straightforward implementation for unapproved options.
And the other benefit that obviously comes with setting up an unapproved scheme is the flexibility that's provided.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely flexible. And what we, particularly for international plans, for example, we've got companies with workforce around the globe, is that in the UK, they'll use EMI and CSOP. For employees based outside of the UK, they can use that unapproved option plan and roll it out. There are different territories that have different, tax incentives for options. The US is fairly well understood, but for an unapproved plan can be simple to roll for most foreign territories with minimal negative tax exposure.
And again, just to stress, if you're using EORs, employer of records, then unapproved options may be a really feasible option in terms of incentivizing those individuals employed through an EOR as opposed to other mechanisms.
Yeah. And I think, that's completely achievable. It's a good conversation to have. But when it comes to that wider scheme design, when you've got an unapproved plan, great, we can use it. But what will work best in each territory is something that probably subject to a separate video, but also something that you can think about and talk to us about, and we can support you on.
Perfect. And also the last point then also is that if you're giving unapproved options to individuals and you still qualify for EMI, so those individuals are either contractors or don't meet the time requirements, then actually you can peg the unapproved to the EMI so that actually the same impact is arising for both individuals.
Yeah, and that's completely doable. It's a well-trodden path. You can't agree the market value of an unapproved option at date of grant, but if you're granting EMI options at the same time over a similar size of stake, then it would take a very, very interesting argument, I would say, from HMRC to argue that there's a different market value.
Yeah.